Good day, everyone. Today, I'm going to discuss with you about Erickson's psychosocial theory of development. Okay, we shall begin to know who Erickson or who Erik Erikson is. Erik Erikson was born in 1902 and he died in 1994. He was a German American developmental psychologist and psychoanalyst. He's best known for his theory of psychosocial development, which explains how people evolve socially, emotionally, and psychologically across their entire lifespan. While Freud emphasized psychosexual stages, Erikson expanded the development beyond childhood and adolescence to cover the entire lifespan from infancy to late adulthood. His theory also suggests that each stage of life, individuals face this what you call psychosocial conflict, and this psychosocial conflict must be resolved. No, the way a person handles these conflicts will also shape their personality and their future development. Okay, so let's first talk about some basic concepts of Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. So he has this what you call psychosocial stages. There are actually 8 stages, and each stage has this what you call unique developmental task or developmental conflict. Now, let's talk about the crisis or conflict. At every stage, individuals face a challenge. And this challenge is between two opposing forces, like, for example, trust versus mistrust. Every stage, there really is a conflict. Okay? And that this conflict must not must be balanced. Too much of negative crisis or conflict can have this what you call maladaptation or malignancy. And too much also of the negative conflict or negative crisis can also have either maladaptation or malignancy. Okay? But then again, if we will be able to successfully resolve these conflict or psychosocial crisis, we will develop this what you call strength or virtue. So this strength or virtue only happens when there is this what you call successful resolution that leads to a virtue or psychosocial strength. Oh, I mentioned a while ago about maladaptation and malignancy. This happens when we fail to resolve the conflict. And if we fail to resolve the conflict, it can result in problems that definitely affect our future development. Okay? So we start with the stage 1. Stage 1 happens during infancy, that is 0 to 1 year old. Okay, the crisis here would be, or the central conflict here would be, can I trust the world? Now, during this stage, from 0 to 1, the babies or the infants will definitely ask, can I trust the world? So the key feature here would be um, infants depend on what you call caregivers for food, for comfort, and for safety. Definitely, the caregivers can be the parents or the yaya who's taking good care of the baby. Now, the positive outcome here, if the child will develop the trust towards the parents or the caregiver, especially if they're very reliable, they're consistent, then the child will develop trust and a sense of security. But then again, if the caregivers are neglectful or inconsistent, just the child may develop mistrust or insecurity and even fear. So we have to make sure that this issue, no, this conflict that the child encounters at this stage will help the child develop a virtue called hope. Example, when the baby cries or when the baby is hungry, if the parent is consistently responding with the baby's needs, then the baby will learn that the world is a safer place. But then if too much of the negative conflict can lead to maladaptation, and too much also of the positive conflict can also lead to malignancy. So for this stage, early childhood, that is from 2 to 3 years old, according to Erickson, the the crisis that the child experiences here would be autonomy versus shame and doubt, where the central conflict or the key issue of the child is, can I do things myself or must I rely on others? So the key feature here would be a toddler, since it's 2 to 3, a toddler begins to explore independence, like walking by himself, feeding himself, no, toilet training by himself. And the positive outcome here, if the child is able to, of course, manage his conflict, if encouraged, the child develops autonomy, confidence, and even self-control. But the negative outcome here, if the child is overly criticized, every time he attempts to do something, he is criticized by the caregiver or by the parents, the child becomes restricted, he becomes ashamed, or even the child will develop this what you call self-doubt and low confidence. But if this crisis or conflict will be able to manage or to be balanced, then a virtue will be gained. And the virtue will be the will. Okay? Example, a toddler insists, I want to do it myself. And the parents patiently allow them. So that's a very good situation, no? Patiently allowing the toddler to do things by himself. Dili kay if the child attempts to fasten his button, but if it's taking the child too long, the parents or the caregiver will say, just let me do it. The child will feel that what what does the child feel? He will feel shamed that he's not capable of doing anything, and he will doubt himself as well. Let's now proceed with stage 3. This is the preschool age from 3 to 6 years old. So what's the central conflict at this stage? The child will ask himself, am I good or bad? Okay? So at this stage, because the conflict here is initiative versus guilt, right? That's the crisis, initiative versus guilt. And the central conflict would be, am I good or am I bad? So children at this stage begin to plan, they make choices, and they also engage in play, because this is the stage when they love to play. Now, the positive outcome of this is that when the child is encouraged, when the child is encouraged, they develop this what you call initiative. They develop creativity and leadership. But if the child is being discouraged, the child attempts to do something, but instead of supporting the child is being discouraged. So actually, we should not push the child to do something, and we should not also stop him from doing things that he likes doing. So if the child is discouraged or punished for the ideas that he gives, then he will feel guilty about asserting himself next time. He won't assert himself next time. So at this stage, if the positive outcome and the negative outcome will be balanced, the virtue that the child will gain at this stage would be a sense of purpose. Let's say, for example, a child attempts to cook, okay? And the parents let them steer. They feel capable. But if the child is scolded, then the child will feel guilty. Child will feel guilty for trying. Okay? So this is the stage 3 for preschool 3 to 6 years old. Now let's proceed to the next stage, which is the school age stage, 6 to 12 years old. The crisis would be industry versus inferiority. The central conflict here is, can I make it in the world of people and things? That's the question of the child. Can I make it in the world of people and things? So the question here, can I be competent? All right. Now, the positive outcome of this conflict is that success can lead to a sense of industry, right? The child becomes competent and he feels that he has a lot of achievement. But the negative outcome also of this conflict would be failure or constant criticism, which can cause the child to have this feeling of inferiority and lack of confidence. But then again, if these are balanced, definitely the child will become competent. So an example, if a student is praised for effort in a science project, he will feel capable. But if a child is constantly compared negatively with others, then he might feel inferior. Okay? So let's proceed with the fifth stage, which is the adolescence. That's from 12 to 18 years of age. And the crisis here would be identity versus role confusion. So the central conflict would be, who am I and who can I be? That's the central conflict of the adolescent at this stage. So this is the stage when teenagers explore their values, they explore their beliefs, they explore their future goals, no, they question their identity and their roles and even their peer acceptance. Like, what is my role? Am I being accepted? Are my peers rejecting me or are my peers accepting me? Okay, so the positive outcome for this is, of course, they will develop a clear sense of self and direction. If, of course, the crisis would be balanced. But if it won't be balanced, then failure to establish their identity may definitely result in role confusion. They can have this what you call insecurities and they'll start having identity crisis. But if they won't be confused, if they will be able to answer the question, who am I and who can I be, then the virtue that the child or the adolescent will gain here would be loyalty to self and loyalty to his values. And you call it the fidelity. Okay. So, example, a teenager experiments with styles or career ideas. If he experiments it and he's being supported for it, he's going to form identity. But if he's pressured or unsupported, he will feel lost. All right, let's proceed with young adulthood. I think you all belong to this stage. And by the way, this is the code that I'll be asking in the test for this subject. The code would be 001909. Let me repeat, 001909. So for stage 6, the young adulthood that is from 18 to 40 years old, the crisis here would be in intimacy versus isolation. So central conflict would be, can I love and be loved? Again, can I love and be loved? So the key features for this stage would be the young adults focus on forming close and meaningful relationships. So when I say close and meaningful relationships, it can be friendship, it can be love, no, it can also be partnership. So the positive outcome for this young adulthood stage, intimacy versus isolation, would be a success can lead to strong relationships and intimacy. But the negative outcome of this is If the young adult avoid closeness with others, he or she may result in loneliness and isolation. But if he will be able to successfully balance this stage, the virtue that the young adolescent achieve here would be love. Example, a young adult who is trying to build a relationship, a healthy romantic relationship. Now, if they struggle, then they might avoid intimacy and they might feel isolated. So let's move on to the stage 7 or the middle adulthood, that is 40 to 65 years old. The crisis here would be generativity versus stagnation. The central conflict would be, will I contribute to the world? So that would be the central conflict that a 40 to 65-year-old will feel. So at this stage, adults, of course, focus on work. They're so busy with parenting. They're not anymore expecting love, no, like mutuality, like if I love you and you love me back. At this stage, that's not anymore the focus of the middle-aged people. They just give and give. They give love, they focus on parenting, regardless of the love that they are going to get from their children. Still they'll continue to love their children by, of course, giving them a good future. And they do a lot of community service because they want to leave a legacy. So what would be the positive outcome during this stage? Generativity, if you say generativity, it's a feeling, it's feeling useful, no? And you are contributing to the society because you contribute to the society. Well, the negative outcome here is the stagnation. When you say stagnation, you feel unproductive, you feel disconnected, or you feel so self-absorbed. But then again, if you will be able to successfully manage your positive and negative crisis at this stage, the virtue that a middle-aged adult will achieve at this stage would be care. Care for the world, care for everyone. So a teacher is, let's say for example, a teacher mentoring younger colleagues or young students feels fulfilled. Okay? But someone who feels stuck in a meaningless job may feel definitely stagnant. And the last stage would be the late adulthood. This is from 65 years up. The crisis here would be integrity versus despair. What's the central conflict? The central conflict that at this age, the senior citizen people would ask themselves, did I live a meaningful life? That's their question. And of course, the key features would be older adults reflect on their lives, accomplishments. They also would reflect on their failures. So they would reflect on their what could have beens, no? What ifs in life. They would be reflecting on that. Then, of course, when they do that, the positive outcome would be they will have this sense of integrity, they will have this sense of wisdom and acceptance of one's life. But the negative outcome also, if they will not be able to, of course, uh, manage the negative crisis, they will feel regret, bitterness, or despair, no, over missed opportunities, because there are a lot of things that they were not able to do, and they're feeling bitter about it now that they're old. But then, if all of this will be successfully balanced, no, the virtue that the senior citizen would gain would be wisdom, especially in accepting death. So let's say, for example, a grandparent feels proud of raising a family and contributing to the community. So another may feel, yeah, on the other hand, the old person feels despair over the wasted chances in life. All right, so I have here the visual summary chart. So from infancy, what's the crisis, trust versus mistrust, and the virtue, if you will be able to to negotiate the trust versus mistrust would be hope. And during the early childhood, that's autonomy versus shame and doubt. And the virtue would be will. And during preschool, that's initiative versus guilt. And the virtue would be sense of purpose. During their school age years, their crisis would be industry versus inferiority. But the virtue would be they become competent. During the adolescent stage, it's identity versus role confusion. But if they'll be able to manage those crises, they gain fidelity or loyalty. During young adulthood, that's intimacy versus isolation. But then again, if they'll be able to negotiate the intimacy versus isolation, they'll develop the virtue of love. During middle adulthood, that's generativity versus stagnation. And if managed well, the virtue would be care. And the last would be late adulthood, integrity versus despair. But if the old person won't feel bitter, no, he'll just reflect on his life, and there are a lot of what could have been, but still he's able to accept that. Then he'll develop this what you call virtue of wisdom, especially the wisdom to accept that. All right, so applications in our everyday life, in education, in everyday life. Um, as teachers, as would-be teachers, we have to support our student identity and confidence. We also have to encourage autonomy and initiative, especially among children. We should promote meaningful relationships when we are, uh, especially among young adults, and guide adults in finding purpose and contribution in life. So teachers and parents should understand the social and emotional needs at each stage. Early years definitely require trust and encouragement for independence, while the school age years, children need opportunities for competence and recognition. While during the adolescent stage, they require this what you call identity exploration, but with guidance. While during adulthood, they have to benefit from opportunities for mentoring, contributing, and reflecting in their life. Okay? And the key takeaways here is development is lifelong. Yes. Each stage has psychosocial conflict, but resolution is built, no? With this what you call virtues or what you call strength. So teachers, parents, and peers influence our development. To summarize, Erikson was the one who extended Freud's idea into lifespan psychosocial theory. And each of the 8 stages presents those conflicts that I mentioned. So, positive resolution of each stage can lead to growth, no? Negative outcomes, and can also create challenges for the future. So, as teachers, as would-be teachers, as would-be educators, we must recognize all of these developmental needs so we can support our learners not only academically but also socially and emotionally. So that would be it. Thank you for listening.